Commander Olivia Martinez looked out the large window of the USS Harbinger. The stars shined bright against the darkness of space. She had been in command of this ship for 3 years now, but the view still took her breath away. "Commander, we have something on our scanners," said Lieutenant Eric Powell from his station. His voice was steady, but Olivia could hear the tension in it. She walked over to his screen. "What do we have, Lieutenant?" "Unknown vessel, ma'am. It's big. Really big, and it's heading straight for Earth's defensive perimeter." Olivia's heart beat faster, but her face remained calm. This was what they had trained for. First contact. It was the year 2157, and humans had been traveling between stars for 30 years now. They had built colonies on 12 planets and met 3 alien species. All peaceful so far. But this ship was different. "Alert Earth Defense Command. Send them all scan data. And put us on yellow alert," she ordered. Across the ship, yellow lights began to flash. Crew members moved with purpose, checking systems and preparing for whatever might come. "The vessel is slowing, Commander," Eric said. "It's taking up position just outside our defense grid." "Open a channel," standard greeting protocol. For several long minutes there was no response. Then the main screen lit up with an image that made several crew members gasp. The alien had 6 eyes arranged in a circle around what seemed to be its head. Its skin was a pale blue color, with patterns that shifted and changed as it moved. When it spoke, its voice came through the translator, as deep and slightly metallic. "I am Ambassador Zorthul of the NIGMA Empire. We have come to evaluate the human species." Olivia stood straight. "I am Commander Martinez of the United Earth Defense Fleet. We welcome peaceful contact. Our diplomatic team will be notified immediately." The alien's eyes blinked in sequence. "That would be acceptable. We will send a delegation to your planet in 6 hours." The screen went dark. "Send the recording to Earth now," Olivia said quietly. "And get me Admiral Rogers." Within an hour, Earth was buzzing with activity. The United Nations Space Council called an emergency meeting. Dr. Alan Wright, the best xenolinguist on Earth, was brought in to analyze the NIGMA's language and communication patterns. Admiral Samantha Rogers stood before the council, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. "We don't know enough about them yet, but their ship is heavily armed. This is not just a diplomatic vessel." Council President Gregory Harrison nodded gravely. "What do you suggest, Admiral?" "Caution. Extreme caution. We should limit their access to our systems and facilities." Dr. Wright raised his hand. He was a tall, thin man with kind eyes behind round glasses. "There's something in their language patterns that concerns me. The way they say evaluate has subtle threat markers. In linguistic terms, it's closer to how a predator might assess prey." Colonel Jack Peterson, the military advisor, frowned. "That matches my gut feeling. Something feels off about this whole thing." The NIGMA delegation arrived exactly when they said they would. 3 shuttles landed at the United Nations Space Center in Geneva. Ambassador Zorthul stepped out, accompanied by 12 other NIGMA officials. Dr. Wright stood beside Council President Harrison as they greeted the aliens. Up close, the NIGMA were even more impressive. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in what looked like a combination of scales and smooth skin that shifted colors slightly as they moved. "We bring greetings from the 97 worlds of the NIGMA Empire," Zorthul said. "Your species has expanded quickly. Your territory now borders our space." "We seek peaceful relations with all intelligent life," Harrison replied. "We would be honored to learn more about your civilization." The meetings went on for 3 days. The NIGMA asked many questions about Earth's history, technology, and military capabilities. They shared some information about themselves but avoided specific details about their government or military. On the 4th day, Zorthul made a request that caused tension in the council chamber. "As is standard practice when meeting new species, we request permission to conduct a cultural survey of your military installations and defense systems. This will help us understand how best to integrate your species into the galactic community." "Colonel," Peterson leaned over to whisper to Admiral Rogers, "they want to scan our defenses. That's a red flag if I ever saw one." Admiral Rogers stood up. With all respect, Ambassador, throughout human history, allowing potential competitors to examine military capabilities has often preceded conflict, not cooperation. Xorthul's color pattern swirled faster. Are you suggesting the NIGMA Empire has hostile intentions? We have brought peace and order to countless worlds. Not at all, President Harrison said quickly. But our protocols require a more gradual approach to sharing such information. After hours of debate, a compromise was reached. The NIGMA would be allowed limited access to older Earth defense systems, but nothing cutting edge. They would be permitted to visit 2 outer colonies, but would be escorted at all times. That night, Dr. Wright couldn't sleep. He worked late in his lab, analyzing recordings of the NIGMA language. At 3 a.m., he found something that made his blood run cold. He immediately called Colonel Peterson. "I've decoded more of their internal communications," Wright said, his voice urgent. "They're using a classification term for humans that they think we can't translate. It roughly means worthy conquest or valuable acquisition." Peterson was fully awake now. "I'll alert Admiral Rogers. Keep working on this." Meanwhile, aboard the USS Harbinger, Commander Martinez was reviewing sensor data when something caught her eye. "Lieutenant Powell, what are these energy signatures near our defense grid satellites?" Eric studied his screen. "They look like probes, ma'am, but they're not ours. Can you trace their origin?" He worked quickly, his fingers flying over the controls. "They came from the NIGMA ship, Commander. They're scanning our entire defense network." Olivia's face hardened. "They didn't ask permission for this. Contact Earth Defense Command immediately, and prepare to intercept those probes." As the Harbinger moved to disable the unauthorized NIGMA devices, Olivia couldn't help but wonder if humanity was about to face its greatest challenge since reaching the stars. The NIGMA Empire had come to Earth with smiles and diplomatic words, but their actions told a different story. The game had begun, and Earth would need to be very careful about its next move. 6 months had passed since the NIGMA Empire first contacted Earth. Things had grown tense. NIGMA ships were now spotted near several human colony worlds, watching from a distance, but never approaching. Captain Ethan Rivers stood on the bridge of the USS Dauntless, patrolling the edge of human space. He was a tall man with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Captain, we're picking up a distress signal," said Communications Officer Kelly Ward. "It's not human, and it's not NIGMA either." "Source?" Ethan asked, moving to her station. "A small ship, heavily damaged. It's drifting near the Proxima colony." "Set course, maximum speed," ordered Ethan. "Alert medical to prepare for possible alien injuries." The Dauntless arrived at the location 2 hours later. The alien vessel was barely holding together. Its hull was scorched by weapon fire. "Life? Signs?" Ethan asked. 4, very weak," replied Science Officer Noah Ellis. "Their life support is failing." Ethan made his decision quickly. "Bring them aboard. Full quarantine protocols." The aliens were unlike anything the crew had seen before. They were aquatic beings with blue-green skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. They had large, expressive eyes and breathed through gills on their necks. The medical team placed them in special tanks filled with salt water. Dr. Fiona Harper, the ship's chief medical officer, looked up from her scanner. "They're stabilizing, Captain. I think they'll make it." It took 3 days for the universal translator to adapt to the aliens' language. They called themselves Lyrians. Their spokesperson, a female named Tala, was the first to speak with Ethan. "We thank you for saving us," she said, her voice translated through a speaker near her tank. "We were fleeing from NIGMA ships. They attacked our colony without warning." Ethan frowned. "Why would they attack you?" "Because we refused to submit to their rule," Tala replied. "The NIGMA Empire has conquered 17 species in the last 100 years. They follow the same pattern each time. First contact, then cultural surveys, then demands for resources, and finally conquest." Ethan sent this information immediately to Earth. The Dauntless changed course and headed home at top speed, bringing the Lyrians with them. Back on Earth, Dr. Natalie Chen was presenting her findings to the United Nations Space Council. She was the head of alien cultural studies, and she didn't like what she had discovered. The NIGMA have been systematically gathering intelligence on our weaknesses, she explained, showing charts and data on the large screen. They've done this before. It's their standard method before they attack. Admiral Rogers nodded grimly. This matches what we've learned from the Lyrians that Captain Rivers rescued. President Harrison looked worried. But their technology is far beyond ours. If they decide to attack, how can we possibly defend ourselves? In a different part of Earth Defense Headquarters, Lieutenant Marcus Howard was working late. He was a tactical officer with a brilliant mind for strategy. He had been studying the historical records provided by the Lyrians, looking for patterns in how the NIGMA fought their wars. They always attacked the same way, he muttered to himself as he analyzed battle data. They rely on overwhelming force and expect immediate surrender. They've never faced an enemy that didn't give up after the first attack. Marcus developed a series of possible countermeasures, but when he presented them to his superiors, they were skeptical. "These are interesting theories, Lieutenant," said General Frank Wilson, "but we're still hoping for peaceful relations. Your plans would require us to commit significant resources." Marcus left the meeting frustrated. No one seemed to understand the danger they were facing. Meanwhile, Ambassador Catherine Bell was preparing for a direct communication with the NIGMA. She was a skilled diplomat with years of experience, but even she felt nervous about this meeting. Through a large screen in the communication chamber lit up, showing High Commander Vex Nar of the NIGMA fleet. Unlike Ambassador Zorthul, who had at least pretended to be friendly, Vex Nar made no attempt to hide his disdain. "The NIGMA Empire has decided that humanity would benefit from closer integration with our systems," he announced without preamble. "We will begin by establishing permanent bases on your outer colonies." Catherine stood tall. "With respect, Commander, Earth has not agreed to any such arrangement. We value our independence and will defend it if necessary." Vex Nar's color patterns swirled in what the humans now recognized as amusement. Primitive species always overestimate their capabilities. "It would be better for everyone if you accepted our guidance willingly." "Is that a threat?" Catherine asked directly. "Merely an observation based on historical precedent," Vex Nar replied smoothly. "We will give you time to reconsider. 1 of your Earth months should be sufficient." After the communication ended, Catherine immediately reported to the Space Council. "They're not even trying to hide their intentions anymore," she said. "They expect us to surrender without a fight." Admiral Rogers shook her head. "We won't. We've been preparing defenses since the first warning signs. We're not as helpless as they think." Lieutenant Howard had been invited to this meeting, and he spoke up. "Their confidence is their weakness. They've never failed before, so they don't expect to fail now. We can use that against them." Before anyone could respond, an urgent message came through. The face of Governor Alex Martin of the Nova Terra colony appeared on screen. He looked terrified. "NIGMA warships have appeared in orbit without warning," he said, his voice breaking up. "They're demanding immediate surrender. They say if we resist, they'll—" The transmission became garbled. Admiral Rogers leaned forward. "Governor, can you repeat?" The image cleared briefly. Governor Martin's last words came through clearly. "We warned them not to come. We told them Earth would fight back. They laughed. At us. Now they're—" The transmission cut off completely. President Harrison looked around the table at the grim faces of Earth's leadership. "It seems the time for diplomacy has passed," he said quietly. "Admiral Rogers, implement defensive Plan Alpha. Ambassador Bell, inform all off-world colonies to prepare for possible attack." As everyone moved to carry out their orders, Lieutenant Howard approached Admiral Rogers. "Ma'am, about Operation Hornet's Nest, the trap we discussed. I think now would be the time." Admiral Rogers studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Make it happen, Lieutenant. The NIGMA think they're coming to an easy conquest. Let's show them how wrong they are." Throughout the Sol system, ships moved into position. On Earth and the colonies, people prepared for war. The NIGMA Empire was about to learn that humans don't surrender easily, and they definitely don't go down without a fight. The three NIGMA battle fleets entered the Sol system with confidence. Their ships were massive, some as large as small moons. The lead ship belonged to High Commander Vexnar, who stood on his command deck watching the holographic display of the human solar system. "Primitive defenses," he said to his officers. "Their ships are small and few in number. This conquest will be quick." What Vexnar didn't know was that he was walking into a trap. Admiral Rogers and Lieutenant Howard had named it Operation Hornet's Nest. For weeks they had leaked false information about Earth's defensive capabilities, making them seem weaker than they really were. The NIGMA fleet moved past the orbit of Neptune, then Uranus. They weren't being careful. Why should they be? They had conquered 17 other species without serious resistance. As they approached Jupiter, Admiral Rogers gave the order from her command center on Earth. "Begin Operation Hornet's Nest." Suddenly, hundreds of human ships appeared from behind Jupiter's many moons. They had been hiding there, engines cold, waiting for this moment. Among them was the USS Harbinger, commanded by Olivia Martinez, now wearing the rank of captain after her promotion. "All ships, engage as planned," Olivia ordered. "Remember your training. We've prepared for this." The human fleet was smaller than the NIGMA's, but they had the element of surprise. And they had something else: Captain Daniel Grant of the stealth carrier USS Defiance. His ship carried experimental weapons designed specifically for this battle. Daniel was a quiet man with steady hands and a sharp mind. He had worked closely with Earth's best scientists to prepare for this day. "Launch quantum-linked torpedoes," he ordered. "Target their lead ships." The torpedoes shot out from the Defiance. They looked ordinary, but they were special. The NIGMA scans showed they were just simple explosives, not worth worrying about. But these torpedoes used quantum linking technology that allowed them to bypass NIGMA shields entirely. When they hit the first NIGMA battleship, the explosion tore through its hull like it had no protection at all. High Commander Vexnar stared in shock as the damage reports came in. "Impossible," he said. "Their technology is not advanced enough for this." More torpedoes struck more NIGMA ships. The humans fought with unexpected skill and coordination. They used Jupiter's gravity to slingshot their smaller ships at high speeds, making them harder to hit. On Earth, a group of civilian engineers led by Karen Phillips had another surprise ready. Karen was a computer expert who had studied the NIGMA communication patterns. She and her team of hackers had found a way to break into the NIGMA systems. "We're in," Karen said as her fingers flew across her keyboard. "Uploading the virus now." The virus spread through the NIGMA fleet, jumbling their communications. Ship commanders received wrong orders. Some received no orders at all. Their perfectly organized attack fell into chaos. High Commander Vexnar realized something was very wrong. "Pull back," he ordered. "Regroup beyond their moon's orbit. We need to reassess." The NIGMA ships that could still move began to retreat. Nearly a third of their fleet had been damaged or destroyed. They had expected an easy victory, but were now running away. In Earth's Defense Command Center, Admiral Rogers watched the NIGMA retreat with grim satisfaction. "Lieutenant Howard, your trap worked perfectly." Marcus Howard nodded but didn't smile. "This was just the first wave, Admiral. They'll be back and they'll be angry." Sure enough, High Commander Vexnar sent a message to Earth as soon as his fleet had regrouped. His face appeared on screens in command centers around the world. "Humans," he said, his voice cold with anger. "You have been fortunate today. What you experienced was merely a demonstration, not our true military might. Surrender now, or when we return, your species will face extinction." President Harrison, standing beside Admiral Rogers, stepped forward to reply. "We warned you not to attack us. We made it clear we wanted peace. You chose war instead. We will never surrender to the NIGMA Empire." After the transmission ended, Admiral Rogers turned to her officers. "They'll need time to repair their ships and adjust their strategy. That gives us time to prepare for the next attack." Captain Olivia Martinez returned to Earth with her ship, the USS Harbinger. There were celebrations around the world for their victory, but Olivia knew it was too soon to celebrate. "We hurt them," she told her crew during their debriefing. But, mostly we surprised them. Next time, they won't underestimate us. Meanwhile, Dr. Alan Wright and his team had been working non-stop to intercept and translate NIGMA communications. He brought his latest findings to Admiral Rogers. "They're confused," he said, showing her the translations. "They've never faced this kind of resistance before. Look at this message from Vex-Nar to their central command." Rogers read the message on the tablet. The final line stood out clearly. "The humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. Standard conquest protocols may be insufficient." Rogers handed the tablet back to Wright. "Good, let them worry." In the weeks that followed, Earth prepared for the next attack. New weapons were built. More ships were launched. The colonies that hadn't been attacked yet were fortified. Karen Phillips and her team of hackers worked to improve their virus. "Next time we'll do more than just confuse them," she promised. "We'll shut down their weapons systems completely." Lieutenant Howard, now promoted to commander, developed new battle strategies based on what they had learned about NIGMA tactics. "They rely too much on their technology," he explained during a strategy meeting. "They expect it to make them invincible. We've proved it doesn't." 6 weeks after the battle at Jupiter, long-range sensors detected movement. The NIGMA were coming back, but this time their fleet was 3 times larger. Admiral Rogers called an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders. "We can't fight that many ships," she said. "Not directly, but I have another plan." The leaders listened as Rogers explained her idea. It was bold, it was risky, some said it was crazy, but in the end, they all agreed it was their best chance. Instead of waiting for the NIGMA to attack Earth again, they would take the fight to them. They would push into NIGMA territory and free the worlds they had conquered. They would show the galaxy that the NIGMA Empire wasn't invincible. "The best defense is a good offense," Rogers said. "Let's hit them where they don't expect it." As the meeting ended, President Harrison pulled Admiral Rogers aside. "This plan, it could save humanity or doom us. Are you sure it's our best option?" Rogers looked him in the eye. "In war, there are no perfect options, Mr. President, but I'd rather die fighting for our freedom than live under NIGMA rule." The next day, Operation Counterstrike began. A coalition fleet led by Admiral Rogers jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading for NIGMA space. At the front of the fleet was the USS Harbinger, with Captain Olivia Martinez in command. The NIGMA Empire had no idea what was coming. The human fleet moved through NIGMA space quickly and quietly. Admiral Rogers had chosen their first target carefully, the planet Vega Prime. It was one of the most recently conquered worlds, home to the Lyrians who had warned Earth about the NIGMA Empire. Captain Olivia Martinez sat in the command chair of the USS Harbinger, leading the first wave of the attack. Her ship's new stealth systems kept it hidden from NIGMA sensors. "All ships maintain radio silence," she ordered. "We need the element of surprise." The NIGMA had left only a small defense force at Vega Prime. They never expected to be attacked in their own territory. Why would they? No species had ever dared to challenge the NIGMA after conquest. "We're in position," said Lieutenant Eric Powell from the tactical station. "NIGMA orbital defenses are active but not on high alert." Olivia took a deep breath. "Begin Operation Freedom. All ships, attack pattern Delta." The human fleet appeared suddenly, as if out of nowhere. The NIGMA ships in orbit barely had time to raise their shields before the first shots hit them. The battle was fierce but short. Within 2 hours, the humans had control of the planet's orbit. "Prepare ground teams for deployment," Olivia ordered. "Major Foster, you have command of the landing force." Major Lisa Foster was a tough, experienced officer who specialized in ground combat. She led 400 soldiers and 20 dropships down to the surface of Vega Prime. Their mission was to free the Lyrian prisoners and secure the main NIGMA control center. Lisa's dropship landed in a clearing near the prison camp. "Move fast. Stay low," she told her team over the radio. "Remember your training." The NIGMA guards were caught completely off guard. They had never faced a direct attack before, and they weren't prepared for the speed and determination of the human soldiers. Lisa's team quickly overwhelmed the guards and broke into the prison. Inside, they found thousands of Lyrians in terrible conditions. Among them was Tala, the Lyrian who had first warned Earth about the NIGMA. "You came back for us," Tala said when she saw Lisa. "We didn't think anyone would ever come." "Humans don't abandon their friends," Lisa replied. "Can you help us?" "We need to know where the main control center is." Tala nodded. "I'll do better than that. I'll show you a secret way in." While Lisa and her team worked on the ground, Captain Olivia Martinez received a message from Admiral Rogers. The main human fleet had engaged a large NIGMA force 3-star systems away. "We're drawing their attention," Rogers said. "But we need that control center secured. The intel it contains could change the course of this war." "Major Foster is on it," Olivia assured her. "She'll get it done." On the surface, Lisa followed Tala through underground tunnels that the Lyrians had dug in secret. They emerged near the back of the NIGMA Control Center, a massive building that towered over the landscape. "The NIGMA don't even guard this area," Tala explained. "They never imagined we would resist." Lisa signaled her team. "Jenkins, Harris, set the charges. Everyone else, prepare to move in fast once we blow the wall." The explosion ripped a hole in the back wall of the building. Lisa's team rushed in, weapons ready. They fought their way through confused NIGMA guards to the main control room. The battle was intense but quick. Within 20 minutes, they had control of the center. "Secure all computer systems," Lisa ordered. "Download everything." A young tech specialist named Gary Winters went to work on the main computer. "Major, this is incredible," he said after a few minutes. "They have files on every species they've conquered, including tactical data on how they did it." But the most important discovery came from Tala, who showed them something the humans hadn't known before. "The NIGMA ruling caste is physically connected to their battle networks through neural interfaces," she explained, pointing to diagrams on the screens. "It's how they control their fleets so efficiently." Lisa immediately contacted Captain Martinez. "Ma'am, we've found critical intelligence about NIGMA command structure. They have a significant weakness we can exploit." Back on Earth, Professor Ben Harrison received the data from Vega Prime. He was the head of advanced weapons research, a brilliant scientist who had already helped develop several of the technologies that had allowed humans to resist the first NIGMA attack. Ben studied the information about the NIGMA neural networks with growing excitement. "This changes everything," he told his team. "If they're all connected like this, we can target the entire system at once." He worked day and night, rarely sleeping until finally he had a breakthrough. "I'm calling it the Cognitive Disruption Array," he explained to Admiral Rogers during a video call. "It sends out a specific pattern of energy waves that overload neural networks. It won't kill the NIGMA commanders, but it will temporarily paralyze their ability to control their fleets." "How soon can you have it ready?" Rogers asked. 2 weeks for a prototype, maybe a month for full deployment." Rogers nodded. "Make it 2 weeks, we don't have a month." Meanwhile, the human counteroffensive continued. With the information from the Vega Prime Control Center, they could predict NIGMA movements and stay one step ahead. They liberated 3 more conquered worlds, and each time the freed species joined the fight against their former masters. The NIGMA High Command was in a state of shock. High Commander Vex Nar had been recalled to their homeworld to explain his failures. "How is this possible?" demanded Emperor Kazvetel. "They are a primitive species. They should have surrendered immediately. They fight differently," Vex Nar tried to explain. "They use unconventional tactics. They take risks that no rational species would take." The Emperor's color patterns darkened with anger. "Excuses. I will not accept excuses. Deploy the Dreadnought Division. End this human rebellion once and for all." The Dreadnought Division was the NIGMA's greatest weapon. 5 enormous ships, each capable of destroying an entire planet. They had never been defeated in battle. The Emperor's order sent fear through the entire command staff. Using the dreadnoughts meant they were willing to destroy Earth completely, rather than let humans continue to resist. News of the dreadnoughts' deployment reached the human fleet quickly. Admiral Rogers called an emergency meeting with her top officers. "They're sending their planet killers," she said grimly. "Their target is Earth. We need to stop them before they get there. Professor Harrison joined the meeting via video link. The cognitive disruption array is ready for testing, he reported, but we've only built one so far, and it has limited range. We would need to get very close to their command ship for it to work. How close? Rogers asked. Within 10,000 kilometers. Basically, right on top of them. A heavy silence fell over the room. Getting that close to a NIGMA dreadnought was practically a suicide mission. I'll do it, said a voice from the back of the room. Captain Ryan Boyd of the experimental ship USS Chimera stepped forward. My ship is the fastest and has the best stealth systems. If anyone has a chance to get close enough, it's me. Admiral Rogers looked at him for a long moment. You understand what you're volunteering for? Ryan nodded. Yes, ma'am. But if there's even a small chance this works, it's worth the risk. 3 days later, the USS Chimera, equipped with Harrison's disruption device, set out on its dangerous mission. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested on Captain Ryan Boyd and his brave crew. The USS Chimera moved silently through NIGMA space. Captain Ryan Boyd stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by as they traveled at high speed. His ship was specially designed for this mission. It was small, fast, and nearly impossible to detect. Status report, Ryan said quietly. All systems normal, Captain, replied his second-in-command, Lieutenant Diane Mason. Stealth systems at maximum efficiency. The NIGMA haven't detected us. Ryan nodded. And the cognitive disruption array? Professor Harrison's device is functioning perfectly, reported Engineer Chris Warren from his station. Power levels stable. The mission was simple but incredibly dangerous. They needed to get close to the lead NIGMA dreadnought, the one carrying Emperor Kazvettel himself, and activate the disruption device. If it worked, it would temporarily paralyze the NIGMA command structure. New contact, announced Sensor Officer Grace Kim suddenly. It's them, the Dreadnought Division. Ryan moved to her station and looked at the screen. 5 massive ships appeared as bright dots on the display. Each one was larger than any ship humans had ever built. Each one could destroy an entire planet. Time. To target? Ryan asked. At current speed, 3 hours, Grace replied. Ryan took a deep breath. Maintain course. Keep our stealth systems at maximum. This is going to work. Throughout NIGMA space, the species they had conquered were watching and waiting. The news of human resistance had spread from world to world. For the first time in generations, there was hope. On Earth, Admiral Rogers was coordinating the final phase of their plan. If Ryan's mission succeeded, they would need to act quickly. She had gathered ships from every human colony and outpost. All fleet commanders, she broadcast. Be ready to move on my signal. The window will be short. Captain Olivia Martinez of VU. The USS Harbinger was leading one of the attack groups. We're ready, Admiral, she responded. Just give the word. As the hours passed, the USS Chimera got closer and closer to the NIGMA dreadnoughts. They were now just 30 minutes from optimal position. Captain, said Communications Officer Peter Alvarez, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Rogers. Put it through, Ryan ordered. Admiral Rogers' face appeared on the main screen. Captain Boyd, we've just received intelligence that the Emperor himself is aboard the lead dreadnought. If you can disable his neural link, it will affect the entire NIGMA command structure. Understood, Admiral, Ryan replied. We're almost in position. Good luck, Captain. The whole world is counting on you. The transmission ended and Ryan turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. Let's make this count. 20 minutes later, the Chimera was in position, just 10,000 kilometers from the massive lead dreadnought. They were so close they could see it clearly through the viewports, a giant ship shaped like a curved blade, dark and menacing. They still haven't detected us, Grace reported with amazement. Prepare to activate the cognitive disruption array, Ryan ordered. On my mark. Engineer Warren's hands moved over his controls. Device charged and ready, Captain. Ryan looked around at his crew. They were all so young, so brave. They all knew this might be their last mission. It's been an honor serving with all of you, he said. Mark! Warren pressed the activation control. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a wave of energy surged from the Chimera toward the dreadnought. It was invisible to the human eye, but their sensors showed it spreading outward, engulfing. The massive ship, did it work? Ryan asked tensely. For several long seconds, there was no response. Then suddenly the lights on the dreadnought flickered. Its engines, which had been glowing brightly, dimmed. "It's working," Warren exclaimed. "The energy pattern is cascading through their systems." "The other dreadnoughts are also showing power fluctuations," Grace reported. "The neural network is failing across their entire fleet." Throughout NIGMA space, something incredible was happening. On every conquered world, the control systems that kept the local populations imprisoned suddenly went offline. In every NIGMA ship, commanders lost their connection to the central command network, and across the galaxy, the oppressed species rose up. They had been waiting for this moment, for any sign of weakness in their conquerors. Now they seized their chance. Admiral Rogers received the signal she had been waiting for. "All ships commence Operation Freedom. I repeat, commence Operation Freedom." The human fleet jumped into action, moving to support the rebellions on every NIGMA-controlled world. They had planned this carefully, coordinating with resistance fighters on each planet. On the NIGMA homeworld, Emperor Casvital was in a state of panic. For the first time in his life, he couldn't feel the neural connection to his commanders. He was blind, cut off from his empire. "What is happening?" he demanded of his advisors. "Fix this immediately." But they couldn't fix it. The cognitive disruption array had done its job perfectly, overwhelming the neural interfaces that the NIGMA relied on so heavily. As reports of rebellions poured in from across the empire, Casvitul realized the truth. They were losing. For the first time in 10,000 years, the NIGMA empire was falling. 3 days later, aboard the neutral space station Harmony, a historic meeting took place. Emperor Casvetel had requested an audience with human representatives. Olivia Martinez, now promoted to admiral after Captain Boyd's successful mission, faced the humbled emperor. "You have defeated us," Casvetul admitted. His color patterns were dull and slow-moving, a sign of deep distress in his species. "What terms do you demand for our surrender?" Olivia could have asked for anything. Complete NIGMA withdrawal from all conquered worlds. Reparations for the damage they had caused. Even the dissolution of their empire entirely. Instead, she said, "We propose terms for peaceful coexistence. All conquered worlds will be liberated, free to choose their own paths. The NIGMA may keep their homeworld and their original colonies, but no more." Casvetul seemed surprised. "You do not seek our destruction?" "No. Humans don't want to conquer. We just want everyone to be free." The emperor was silent for a moment. Then he said something unexpected. "There is something you should understand about my species. We evolved as a hive mind. For us, being connected is natural. We genuinely could not comprehend why independent beings would resist becoming part of our network." "And now?" Olivia asked. "Now we must learn a new way to exist. Your resistance, your victory. It has forced us to change how we think." 5 years later, Dr. Alan Wright and Ambassador Catherine Bell attended a ceremony on a distant world. Representatives from 50 different species gathered to celebrate the founding of the Galactic Cooperative, a new alliance built on mutual respect and cooperation. The former NIGMA territories had been reorganized into autonomous regions. The NIGMA themselves, under new leadership, had joined the cooperative as equals, not conquerors. And throughout the galaxy, humanity was regarded with a mixture of respect and gratitude. They were the species that had ended 10,000 years of imperial domination. At the center of the ceremony was a monument, tall and gleaming in the light of an alien sun. It bore an inscription in multiple languages, including Earth Standard. "We warned the NIGMA Empire about Earth. They didn't listen. Their empire is gone, but together we built something better." Admiral Olivia Martinez read the words and smiled. It had been a hard journey with many sacrifices along the way. But looking at the peaceful gathering of so many different species, she knew it had been worth it. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as liberators. And that, she thought, was the greatest victory of all.